Welcome back. Let's catch up with Dara's podcast, episode 16.
Let me just see here what we've got next. Oh, I want to talk about my good buddy Tony Mallon. Tony is running for election in Belfast, in West Belfast. And West Belfast is the hardest jurisdiction in this country to run against the narratives of autogynephilia and controlled immigration. Tony wants a points-based immigration system. And because they've brought in abortion in the north by fiat, they just declared abortion at the behest of Sinn Féin, that abortion was now legal in Northern Ireland. They didn't ask anybody, and during the lockdown they declared abortion legal, and it is legal in the north. Late-term pregnancies are legal to abort in the north, and you can see already here in the south they're about to do the same here. So Tony would support a referendum on abortion in the north. It's the quickest way to see what the people of Northern Ireland really think. And we already know what the people of Northern Ireland really think, because they've kept abortion out of their country for as long as it was humanly possible. And it took Sinn Féin's representations in Westminster Parliament they swore they would never take part in. But literally their representation in Westminster is the reason that abortion is in the north. I think we had 8,600 abortions this year in Ireland, which is up 1,200, isn't it up 2,200 abortions. It jumped in a year. So it's heinous that that number of children were murdered in our country at a time, when our country was on its knees with lockdowns and all the damage done from the forced injections. To be thinking that our state is killing 8,600 babies a year is just violent. It makes me ill. So Tony has a great system up there. He's set up a community-based group that delivers food and clothing around to the local people, the needy people locally in West Belfast. And he will then use that community group to distribute his wages from his job as a West Belfast councillor. And he'll be putting maybe 15 to 16,000 a year into that community group for distribution into the good causes around the community. And the way he has it set up is that he is responsible for the group, in that he is the director of the group, but he has no input into the day-to-day running of the board of directors of the group. The board of directors just tell him what they need, and Tony endeavours to provide that. So, but he doesn't get to tell them how to spend the money, because you know yourself how that can be manipulated, has been manipulated by various political parties over the years for their own benefit. So Tony was very eager. It's quite an unusual organisational structure, but it works, and it is working. And Tony is one of the very few politicians I know who has actually delivered on the promises he made in his manifesto. Even though he wasn't elected, he still delivered his promises. And that even, as a politician, that would be unique. But to be a politician who didn't get elected the last time around and still deliver your promises, I think that says a lot about Mr. Mallon. And if you're listening, Tony, do give a call in. No, he's at work. So that's how he can afford to give his wages away, is because he has a job anyway. And the councillor job is 2.5 days a week. So he's already putting that kind of work into his community anyway, on top of what he does every day. So I want to say to you guys that now I have been up there all this week, laying the groundwork, and I'll no doubt be up there again next week. But I wanted to say to you guys, anybody who's interested in learning how election campaigns are run, who's interested in learning how to canvass, how to deal with printers, how to organise canvassing campaigns, how to organise tallies. So I wanted to say to you guys who know me and who have been working with me over the last while, I don't care if you're in a party, I don't care if you're independent, I don't care who you are. If you want to come up to Tony's, he's got a sizable house. There's plenty of room there. I counted sleeping for 7 people. It's got all the mod cons. It's a very nice house. And I'm sure we'd fit even more than 7 if you want to bring your sleeping bag and a bit of a mattress of some sort. I think actually it's 8 beds off the top of my head. That's including three couches and a settee in the. They're very nice couches now, mind you. You'd be very comfortable. I've actually slept on one recently myself, and it's just like a bed. It's beautiful. So there will be a few vacancies for people, like if you want to come for a day or 2 days or a week or whatever you want to do, and you get to see a bit of Belfast. I think actually, the big thing I noticed by the few people I have brought to meet Tony at his house in Belfast, they're certainly from the south. Our conditioning regarding Belfast and what's been going on up there all our lives, it's very narrow. It's what was sensational enough to put on the news. It was what was sensational enough to write about in a newspaper. It was what was interesting enough to put in a book. That's what we know about our Northern Ireland, many of us anyway, So I would say to you that that's not my experience up there. And certainly it's been a generation now since the Troubles. And I really would be eager for you guys to see, not the canvassing and the campaigning, that's very important. But what's also important is to see how different these guys live. They have a much stronger community network, and every housing estate you go to has a community centre and a local community resource centre. It might have a little shop in there, a second-hand shop, or it might have, a computer shop, internet shop, or something along those lines. It's great to see, and you can see the difference in the people. And you can see the difference in the communities, that they're used to being in large groups at meetings, and that they're used to being debating the topics that affect that community in their community centre. So I go to many meetings up there, and it's wonderful. I can't tell who's from what community, and none of them make it obvious. They're not like that, That day is gone for a large portion of the population. Of course, there's still plenty of the population that's very important to, but for the vast majority of the population, they just want to get on with their lives. They just want to raise their kids in peace. And many of their kids now have no idea about the Troubles. So, we get kicks from messing with each other and from slagging each other, and, the land of the twitching curtains. We enjoy gossiping, and sometimes some people get kicks out of causing trouble for other people in the south. Now I'm talking about, but you don't get any of that up there. You don't get any of that at all, or very little of that up there, because no one wants any more hassle. No one is eager to fall out with their neighbour. No one is eager to be judging people, because if the story gets out of hand, then the reprisal could get out of hand. So their conditioning over a generation or two has led them to lead a life of peace. They just want peace. They just want to be left alone to rear their family. And when they meet you and they talk to you, they want to understand you. They want you to tell them how you feel about things. And they can't believe when a southerner comes up, especially to go canvassing for a Northern Irish politician. They're just so complimented that you have such interest in their politics, and that you would go to a lot of trouble and, sleep on a floor or sleep on a couch, or, go to that kind, give up your time. They feel really complimented that you would do that, and when they open the door and they hear the southern accent, they're like, oh, what are you doing up here? Why are you working for that man? And I tell them, well, I'm very interested in the way he does business. I'm very interested in his community group, and I want to adopt it into our system. And, it really, it's a tremendous experience up there. And I know you guys have a bunch of conditioning that tells you it's all strife and everybody's on edge. And it is not like that at all. At all. You may see an odd story now and again, but it's very, very isolated. It's very, very isolated. And those people, they don't mess with civilians, or at least they don't mess with them twice anyway. If they, like, I've had a couple of interactions with the Lassir Jarrag up there, And sure, they just make fools of themselves every time they put their heads up over the parapet, you know. They just make idiots of themselves. And it makes for great headlines too, you know. It makes for great social media posts when they do stupid things like that. They're an embarrassment to their community at this point. Praying for communism all the time and nobody wants it, you know. But yeah, that's the worst you'd see up there at the moment. But even they are trying to legitimize themselves. They've been denied access to funding now and things, so they're starting to cop on a bit, you know. So I can't, you see, the amount of talking I could do about it, you know, but it doesn't mean anything till you go there, because we've all been so conditioned to think of Northern Ireland in this way, and it's just not true. It's just not true. They're very, very respectful people, a far more respectful society than ours. They have far more respect for each other than we do. They treat each other a lot better than we do. And they don't go looking for trouble. And they're very straight to the point. They don't want any confusion. They don't want you to walk away with the wrong impression in case that you're talking to somebody and you give them the wrong impression, because that can get out of hand, you know. So everybody's very clear with each other up there, and they don't like to leave grey areas or misunderstandings. And it really makes for a very respectful attitude from people. And even people that you will consider your political opponent, they're far more willing to listen, and they don't get half as excited or, what's the word, agitated when you contradict them or you when you go against their narrative. And I guess that's a discipline that was developed through the Troubles, you know, that it gave these people a far more higher tolerance of conflict, and it gave them a far greater threshold for getting annoyed, you know, because the level of annoyance up there was so much higher, and the consequences of getting annoyed is so much more serious. So I can't overstate how impressed I am with life in the north of Ireland, and you guys need to see it. And if you'd like to see it, you can come up and do a bit of canvassing for us in the evening, and for Tony in the evening, and enjoy your day while Tony's at work or whatever you want to do, you know. And there's more than canvassing to be done. There's a bit of gardening to be done. You could do a bit of cooking. You could do a bit of painting. There's a bit of house maintenance to be done. Tony is selling up his house, and there's a bit of work around the place you could be doing. There's loads of kind of meetings on in places that you could go to. I was at an Irish history lecture the last evening up there, given by a man. I don't know what side of the community he was from, but he worked in I think Belfast University. I was previously at events about herbalism and all of the wonderful herbs that we have grown around us here in Ireland, and all the amazing things that they can do for your body. So that was a 3-hour. That was really, really, everybody was so interested in that. So that was great too. So that's the election in the north. It would be great. Just give me a call, lads, and we'll set it up. Yeah, and there's a bed there for you. There's all mod cons. It's a really nice house, and you'll really enjoy yourself, and I hope learn a lot too. So that. Oh, I see Conor Rafferty has put out a video responding to, I think it was episode 13 of The Wandering Wanderer, and he talks about that graph he had spoken about before, dividing our prospective electorate into groups. And it's quite an interesting take on things to look at what we're trying to do through the eyes of marketing. And we're basically in the marketplace of ideas, trying to sell ideas. And there's ways to do it, and there's ways to tailor the message for different portions of the audience. And I think it's a great way of looking at things, and it gives it structure, which is really important. So we saw as well that the parents in Kerry are being told now that they were never going to put the transgender toilets in the school in Kerry, and so there seems to be a lot of backpedaling going on the transgender issue. I'd certainly be getting worried if I was a teacher who had been pushing this stuff on children in Ireland. And if I was a doctor who had recommended off-label use of hormones, I'd be in very serious concern right now if I was you. Um, it's they can't backpedal fast enough at the moment, so that's fantastic. And they took out that this book is gay has been taken off the curriculum in the sex education program. Now, I'm a little bit concerned that they're taking 3 steps forward and 1 step back, and they're going, 3 step forward, 1 step back, 3 step forward, 1 step back. So we just need to keep the pressure on here, guys, because there's more than just that book. And basically, they're admitting that the Department of Education was going to show your children pornography. That's the level the civil service has gone to now. They're the level of errors and mistakes that the Department of Education can make, is that they were going to accidentally introduce porn into the curriculum for your children. One would be concerned as to what kind of civil servants we have in the Department of Education that such a conclusion could be arrived at. But there are other books that are equally as offensive, if not more offensive than this particular book. So when we look at what their tactics that they're using, it's just we need to be careful here. It's really about protecting the child's reproductive rights.
That's a very good way of putting it. They're getting 3 steps forward, and then there's a pushback, and there's 1 step back. But that's only if there's a pushback in that particular area. That was a successful protest. I mean, there's so many areas that we're aware of, and there's areas where people aren't aware of, where the progressive agenda is being pushed forward. And if you're just relying on protests, number one, you have to be aware of what's happening. You have to mobilize a large number of people to get out, and then maybe your protest might be successful, and that one particular area you might push back. But really, that's not the way to proceed long term. Medium term and long term, we need to be getting these corrupt politicians out on their ear, not replacing them with somebody else from the party. So it's not about individuals. It's not about attacking the individual, because any energy put into attacking an individual is a waste of time, because they'll just be replaced by another individual. Look what happened with Jacinda Ardern. She's just replaced by a male version, a male ultra-progressive who can't even define what a woman is. So forget about going for the personalities. That's a waste of time. You need to replace the party. You need to, well, I'm saying you, but I'm talking about us. It's like, I'm in this too. We, as Irish nationalists, as Irish populists, in both jurisdictions, we need to work the political solution. There's a lot of bullshit talked about, how useless the political solution is. That's bullshit, absolute bull. There is political power. Political power is a thing. It exists. You don't need to have a majority in the House to have some political leverage, depending on the circumstances. Look at the Green Party down south, with 6% of the vote, or single-figure percentage of the vote. Have leveraged that, they've made themselves kingmakers and leveraged that to do untold damage. Look what the DUP have done. Through their position, their tiny sliver of the vote in the House of Parliament in Westminster, for 3 or 4 years there, they were the kingmakers of the Tories, and they had the Tories eating out of their hand, basically. So that's... given the correct circumstances, a small chunk of power can be very effective. You don't have total control, but you can certainly get your agenda moved forward a lot. And that's where we start. I mean, I believe that sooner or later, the vast majority of voters will come over to the national populist way of thinking. But it's going to take time. And one way to accelerate that is to get a few representatives in there, and then you start to move the Overton window. It's a gradual thing. It'll take several election cycles, and if we don't start soon, we're going to run out of time, because this battle, the war, will take several election cycles in both jurisdictions. So yes, political power. We need to be thinking political power. everything, the protests were, as I said in my response to Dara yesterday, the assemblies are on the coattails of those protests and assemblies. There needs to be organisation towards political power. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there and play their game of 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, one step back, or sit it out, wait till the election comes around, make a sort of a feint at wearing the clothes, nationalist clothes. You've seen Varadkar doing that. The last through Gale on his Telegram channel, his chats, he's very good at identifying specific moves and sayings that the likes of Varadkar would make to try and do a bit of containment, let the pressure out of the balloon a little bit, take the tension out of the situation, and then push things forward when you're not looking, or after, just after they've got a mandate, just after the neoliberals get a mandate for another 4 or 5 years. That's when they push hard, and then they pull back a little bit when they're coming up to elections, or if they, their analysts would be telling them what the mood of the country is, what they can get, what they can't get away with anymore. The only solution is get them out, replace. So I'm not going to say get them out, because that's not enough. That's only half the job. They need to be replaced by a nationalist populist. Well, it's one of the 2 existing parties, or 3, as there are now 3 existing nationalist parties south of the border. We've got Tony Mallon and his grouping north of the border. We've got all the independent. We've got independents going to be stepping up as well. And let's see what else happens in the meantime. Okay, back to Dara.
And I see Varadkar saying he wants a rational debate on transgenderism. A rational debate on whether or not a man can become a woman by changing his genitalia. That's a contradiction in terms. And I think another area now we can get similar victories in is the cashless society. And I know Krispy Kreme are not taking cash. And I believe Tesco are talking about not taking cash. And I believe SuperValu as well. So you guys out there, I'd suggest you contact Tesco and tell them that you intend to protest outside their door unless they can confirm for you that they will not be going cashless. And the same for SuperValu. But in the meantime, I think it's possible for a few of us around the country to go to the various Krispy Kremes with signs and tell people that if they encourage cashless societies, that they're going to end up as slaves. And you'd be surprised how many people get it. Younger people don't seem to get it. Very young people, they don't seem to get it. So what, they say, a lot of young people. And let them, that's their prerogative. They'll get it eventually. I guess they're used to using their cards all the time. They're used to being able to ring mommy or daddy, and they'll put money into their bank account and they can tap their card, So what they see as convenience is actually slavery. But we don't need the very young people to come along. We just need Krispy Kreme to see that the people who pay for their product, the moms and the dads, the middle-aged people, and the adults in our society won't pass a picket for demanding cash. And I believe that that's true. I believe that's true. And if we can reverse the policy of one corporation based on how it affects their sales, all the rest of the corporations will perk up. Same goes for the GAA. Same goes for all of these guys. How dare they go along and implement fascist control over our nation? These are corporations telling us that our legal tender, the tender of our nation, is unacceptable to pay for bills. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. And we've got to let them know. And we've got to keep them on the back foot on this one, because they're going to keep at it until we can change the government, until we can get these 177 traders out of Dáil Éireann. We have to stay on this and make sure that our children don't end up in slavery. So somebody spoke to me yesterday about the voting system in Ireland. It's a proportional representation system. And what it means is that you can enumerate a number of politicians on the ballot sheet, and as they go through the counts, they'll advance your vote. So if you vote So Galway is a five-seater constituency. So my position is that so whatever the number of seats that are in your constituency, that's the maximum number of votes you could give. So in Galway, it's 5 seats in my constituency, and you shouldn't vote past number 5 because your sixth vote is actually a vote against 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, whichever one, all of them actually. So what happens is, so in the first count, they'll set a threshold, and in Galway it's about 1,000 votes. Sometimes it's 750, sometimes it's 1,200. But they'll say for the first count, anybody who gets more than 1,000 votes gets through to the second count. So they'll count up all the number ones, and they'll assign all of the number ones to all of the candidates, and they create a league table. And anybody who doesn't make the cut of 1,000 votes is excluded. Okay, and actually they redistribute those. No, that's on the excess. Those number ones are gone, and then they move to the second count, and they start counting. Then all the votes go back into the count centre, go back onto the tables. They're all reassembled, and it's the second count. And in the second count, they're going to count all the twos, all the number twos. So we'll say you voted for me on number 1, and another person voted for me in number 2. Well, in the second count, the people who voted for me in number 2 will be added to my number 1s.
No, it's only the candidates who get eliminated whose second vote is considered. It's at every stage. It's only the people who are eliminated that they look at their second or third or fourth or fifth preferences. And I believe it's important to vote all the way down because you're giving a leg up at every stage as you're putting a candidate above somebody else. You're saying, for me, this candidate in number 9 position is slightly better than candidate in number 10 position, and it's especially good to do that for the first half of the ballot. But even it still counts towards the end. It can still count for something towards the end. But yes, there are videos online for the transferable vote system, single transferable vote. It is important to work all the way down, not just stop at 3 or 4 or 5. Have a look at that again, Dara, if you pick this up. Have a look at that, mate. Maybe we could have a discussion about this. I'll find some good sources and run through them with you, and you can see what sources or what that person was telling you, and we can thrash it out in a gentlemanly, logos-based way and find the truth of it. Okay, so here I am after the video post-production. I went and looked for some of these short videos. So I put in the search term single transferable vote, and these came back, and I always start with the shortest one and work my way back up from them. So I looked at that one, the second one there. You can see from the red bar I've watched it, the red bar underneath I've watched it. No, that's 51. What's this? I think this is the one I watched first. Definitely watched that one. There should be a red bar under it. Yes, there is a red bar under it. Unfortunately, if you go into filters and do sort by, unfortunately you can't. You're unable to sort by the length of the video, which would be really helpful if you could get them all ordered by the length of the video. But you just have to run through them. Start with the short ones and build. So in anything, researching anything, just start with the really short ones. Get the basic facts. Then you can start build out from that with slightly longer ones until you get bored or you feel you've done enough. I also did, I think I started off with the search for STV, single transferable vote. And the first one I saw was this one about the Scottish system. 1 minute 50. There you go. If you're at the point where the preference is below your candidate's preference are being considered, then your candidate is already out of the race because they've either been elected or eliminated. That's the important point. So anything below that is only considered once your candidate is out of the race.
Okay, so now my number 1's increased by the number of twos I get. And the same goes for the third. All the votes are put back into when the second count is complete. They create the league table again, and they might put a cut off of 1,500, 1,700, something like that. And anybody who doesn't make the cut is out of the race. And then they put all the votes back in and back onto all the tables. They all get restacked again on the tables.
Again, at each stage where there are people eliminated from the count, it's only the people who are eliminated at that stage whose subsidiary votes are counted. Only the people who are eliminated at that stage.
And they start count number 3. And you add then the number 3s onto my 1s and 2s. And that's how the process goes. But if you were to vote, say someone voted for me in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but they gave my closest rival, we're in the 5th count now, and there's 100 votes between me and another guy. But you voted number 6 for the other guy. You voted number 1 for me, and you voted number 6 for the other guy. Well, now that 6th vote goes to the other guy.
No, because if they voted for you number 1, you're not your second preference, third preference, and lower preference votes from where you showed up for. So if it's number 1, that would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. They're not going to be considered until the moment you are either elected or eliminated. So the preferences below you, the votes below you, aren't relevant until the point where you are either elected or eliminated. So in each case, it doesn't matter a fuck to your destiny. You know, your destiny has already been decided by the time they get to the lower preference votes. If you check the videos, you'll see. Yeah, it's only the people who get elected or eliminated who either go up. There's no camera, so you can't see my hands moving here, right? So the lower position votes cannot affect your destiny at all.
They're the reasons you have to go to the tally. They're the reasons that if you're running for election, you have to have a tally team. And I'd say that to anybody thinking about running for election or any party running for election. You have to have, it's no good just running for the election. You have to know. So your first time out, you're going to get 1, 2, 3%. If you're good, if you're really good, that's what you're going to get. Now look at, you could be lucky, and there could be a groundswell of support out there just waiting for an opportunity to vote, and you could get elected the first time out. It often happens, but more typically, you have to run a couple of times before you break the 10% mark. You know. So what was I going to say there? I don't know. What was I going to say there? Oh yeah, the tally. So one of the major benefits to running for election is that you get to go to the count afterwards. And what the count teaches you is when you look at, well, say you look at a docket, a voting ballot with your number 1 on it, you can tell what was on this voter's mind when you look at how he enumerated the party. So I remember when I ran, a lot of the ballots either had me number 1 and people before profit number 2, and had me number 2 and people before profit number 1. And I had said to myself, well, me and the people before profit candidates, we do a lot of rowing, you know. Do these people want a row? What's going on here? And what it actually was is that these voters saw me and people before profit as a protest vote, and that's what they were doing. That they were protesting against the authority. So it's good to see these things. I got a lot of transfers from Fianna Fáil, everybody, from except Labour, but sure we know why that is. I got a lot of transfers all right across the board. So I was delighted to see that. And you don't see it unless you go to the tally. So you don't see who you should be targeting. You don't see which parties give you the highest transfers. And then you can tailor your message to those parties. You know, you can say, this is the piece. This is why he's voting for me. He doesn't like this about the main party. He doesn't like that about the second main party. So you can learn so much from the tally. And if you're serious about running for election, if you're serious about the long slog it is to get elected, the tally is where you learn how your message was received and how to tailor your message so that you get more votes the next time around. And I'd say, as I said, if you're running for election, make sure you have a team to go to the tally, because what you will learn that day, it's going to shape your message until the next election. I can assure you, it's going to play a big part. So, sorry to be talking so much politics today, lads. But look, I'm not talking about Jordan Peterson, right? So, anybody got anything to say there? Does anybody have any questions about the counting or the tally or the voting or anything like that? Okay, it's all very boring stuff. Indeed. Okay, and no sign of Mike Connell either. He's not around. Okay, Eddie.
Yes, Dara, it might be boring stuff. I'm glad you're focused on it, because it's the boring details that sometimes are the important details. The calculations that go into the angle and the speed of a rocket takeoff, critical. You get those wrong, it's boring, not a lot of fun unless you're into that sort of thing. But you get it wrong, your rocket, your space shuttle blows up, doesn't make it. We're talking about the most important thing we need to do, which is get political power. So it might be boring at times. It might not be as interesting as like the ideological issues, the complaining, the problems we're up to. But if you want, we need to focus on this boring stuff, because it's essential. Otherwise, the problems continue and mount up and get worse.
Eddie, your mic is live. Eddie? Oh, it's not live, sorry. It is now.
Yeah, I can do it now. Sorry, but it wasn't coming up there for... I wonder, Dara, like, I don't mean to be kind of labouring you on it now, but you know what you've just said there about the voting stuff, like, I wonder, would you be able to put any kind of thing together on that, even a short video that we could share around, because some of it's, I would think, is very important going forward. Just to capture that little bit rather than having to listen to the whole podcast. And I do my best to share it around and get others as well, if you're okay with that, like, but it's fairly important kind of stuff.
I had this discussion with somebody else earlier on today. If it's on my podcast, I won't be offended if you cut a piece out of it and put it up.
Right.
I am not like that at all, lads. I give up. I don't want. It's not views I'm after. I want motivated people with initiative. I want to get through to them. I want to send them a quality message. I don't care if I have 10 listeners. If they're motivated and they've got initiative, I'd rather be talking to 10 than 1,000. I really would.
That's grand. So we can probably do it that way. Or if in your own time you decided to just do a little talk on it, and we can get that out as well. Whatever. But I look into. I don't want to be giving you workload, so I look into cutting a bit out of today's thing. Anyway.
I'll say it to David O'Reilly, because David O'Reilly really is the man who taught me about the tally, and he taught me about the importance of being at the tally, and he taught me a lot. David has been at this quite a long time, and he does know the technicalities of it, So I'll see what he has to say about it, and maybe he'd like to do a video on it.
Yeah, I was talking to a guard there yesterday, and the transgender thing came up. And, I was kind of telling him, obviously it's been changed since, but I was telling him, regarding about, you'll need to watch your pronouns going forward or something. But he started laughing, and I knew this fella was kind of a decent enough kind of a sort, because he was telling me the next thing we're going to have to do now is we're going to be involved in the evictions, and that's not our job at all. Like he was kind of sick and bite, and he was telling me there's 20 guards a month leaving. But anyway, I said I'd throw it at him anyway. And I said, what would you do now if you got a phone call and I rang you up? And I said, I have a son here. He's 17 years of age, and he's a right little pervert. He's watching porn morning, noon and night, and he has a big fetish for the tranny porn. But when I say anything to him, he calls me a transphobe, and he tells me grow up. And he's telling me now that he's a woman. And I'm telling him to cop himself on. But he keeps calling me transphobe and say, you better get over yourself, Dad. And he's telling me now that the next step he's going to do is go down to the communal showers in the local sports centre and he's going to be using them with women. And I'm telling him, like, you know, he needs to cop himself on, but he's telling me that I need to cop myself on, and that that's the way the world is now, and to get over myself, and that I'm a transphobe. And if and I'm worried about him, is he going to get in trouble or not? And you know what your man said to me? He started to laugh, and he said, "That's a very hard one now. I say I'd have to refer you on to someone."
It's an ecumenical matter.
Yeah. That could be fairly dodgy, to answer. I think I'd have to refer you on. So I leave you with that story anyway. But
yeah. In fairness to the guard, he had jurisdiction over you there. Like, I know he could have moved straight to arrest.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. But,
Stop. Fair play to him. But